Before My Heart Gives Out by Kira 18 on AO3. Chapter 19. Just got him back. Thanks for letting me talk about this, Todoroki. Bakugo hears Izuku say, voice too neutral, too emotionless for the conversation he just heard. Please keep your promise. The teen says, as if it's as simple as that, as if the new information he heard isn't important, not world-shattering at all. He barely gets his body to move in time, pressing himself against the wall, out of the way and out of sight. Not that that mattered. His back crashes against the hard surface and stays there, frozen in what feels like a pocket dimension, lonely and utterly silent. It feels like a weight he's been trying to get rid of is crashing right back onto his shoulders. A deep bone feeling of something crawling out from the depth of his heart. An emotion he worked so hard to bury deep within him a long time ago. Feelings he usually hides with anger and random outbursts. But now it's back. And it's there, threatening to suffocate him with its sheer force. Sadness, his mind whispers. Grief, almost. Grief for the friend he just barely got back. But it's bound to lose all over again. This time, for good. His mind screams at him to shut up, to stop thinking about this, because surely it's not true, right? Izuku wasn't. He couldn't be. He just couldn't. Bakugo wouldn't let him. He wouldn't. He'd do something. Anything. He feels his eyes start to burn. He's not going to cry. He isn't, damn it. Izuku Midoriya couldn't be dying. The world wasn't that cruel. It wouldn't be. Hasn't the nerd been through enough? Bakugo barely knows a part of what the teen has been through, and he already knows it's more than enough. It had to be. Life wasn't that unfair. Right? Sweat gathers in the palm of his hands, his quirk flaring, threatening to burst out into the open. Much like the hammering heart that's painfully bleeding against his ribcage, making it hard for him to breathe. He tries to suck in a deep breath. His dad taught him some calming exercises when he was younger. When the sudden disappearance of his friend affected him more than he'd like to admit, when the guilt was stronger than what he could handle, when he'd used to want the world to swallow him up whole, when he wanted to hide away until he calmed down, until the feelings disappeared. This was one of those moments. He feels the panic attack coming. He's barely holding on to reality around him. The voices of his classmates blur together, a background noise lost in the fog of his mind. Kirishima walks towards him. His mouth moves. But Bakugo doesn't catch what the redhead is saying. His ears rings, as if he's been plucked into the very depths of the sea, lost in the haze of it all. A hand is on his shoulder, squeezing slightly. The weight serves to ground him a little, long enough for some of the boy's world to break through the barrier his panic mind raised between them. Bro, you okay, Bakugo? The words are muffled to his addled mind, but he managed to make out a couple of words. Hey, maybe you need... Sit down, man. The redhead takes him by the shoulder and ushers him out of the hall, thankfully not gaining the attention of their classmates. The teen even has the foresight to get the two of them alone, effectively dragging the blonde into a secluded room near the hall. It's the kitchen, Bakugo realizes after a moment, his eyes finally rising from their staring contest with the floor. You need to breathe, man. What's wrong? Kaminari asks. The worry in his voice makes him want to spontaneously punch him and hug him. It takes him a minute to realize that his breathing is settling. The redhead's presence was helping. It didn't stop his racing heart, though, nor did it get rid of the crushing sadness he was feeling. He shuts his eyes, wanting nothing more than to hide away, hide the rapidly growing tears that were surely leaking from his eyes soon. So weak, his mind snarled. What was Kirishima going to think about you now? Something touches his chin, startling him into opening his eyes and looking up. His gaze meets with intense red, staring right into his very soul. At least it feels like it did. It's okay, the redhead says, voice calm, no trace of judgment in his tone. Let it go, you're okay, he says plainly. And just like that, the dam breaks. He feels his legs crumble under his weight, knees hitting the floor with a thud, tears flowing freely from his eyes. I just got him back, he whispers, his voice barely reaching his own ears. What was that? Kirishima asks tentatively, falling into place just in front of the explosion wielder. I just got him back, he says again, this time louder. However, the boy's eyes only furl in confusion. And why wouldn't they? He didn't know. He didn't know how messed up the world was, how unfair it all is. He doesn't know about Katsuki's childhood friend. Katsuki's dying childhood friend, his mind corrects. He can see Kirishima responding forms on his lip, feels the inedible question of who. But the words slip once again from his own mouth without his consent. He repeats it again and again, begging his friend to get it, to understand without making Bakugo say it, without making him admit it out loud, because saying it made it real. I just got him back. He stutters out hysterically. He's sobbing now, crying so hard his vision is nothing but a blurry mess, and he can't bring himself to care. Two strong arms wrap around him, shushing him and pressing into him. A constant, safe pillar. He slumps against the boy's hold, letting himself go for what feels like forever. Kirishima doesn't say anything, doesn't even joke about his now wet shirt, even though Bakugo expects him to. Instead, they sit there until Bakugo calms down. The redhead doesn't even question him, doesn't push for information at all, and Bakugo has never been more grateful to anyone in his life. When he can finally breathe, and he's sure his eyes aren't red anymore. They walk back out onto the great hall. They don't talk about it for the rest of the night. It's only when they sit down on the studying table that Bakugo notices Izuku's absence. When asked, Shinsou says that the greenette had something to do. Time is a particular thing. It's both endless and imperfect, for it has a funny way of showing us what truly matters. It's a concept that is both priceless and completely irrelevant at the same time, for what we can never get enough of, nor must we focus on it. The inevitability end of it all. However, it is easier said than done, when instead of a vague, unknowing ending, one is faced with a looming and inimitable time limit. It brings out the darkest thoughts that are buried deep within one's mind, brings out the desperate kind of longing, a craving for more. That night, Izuku makes a choice. It is both the easiest and hardest decision he had ever had to make. Although, now, can it truly be hard to distance himself from his loved ones when he knows that it would help them in the long run? How can it possibly be the wrong choice to spare someone the hurt and pain of losing another? In truth, it's not a choice at all, for there was never really another option between allowing his friends to suffer or hold everything close to his heart and keep it inside. Hide the pain and the sadness. Focus on the more important things. Time was running out, and he was going to spend every last bit of it trying to help people, even if it's plainly the last thing he does. So, for the next few weeks, Izuku throws himself headfirst into his vigilante work. More and more headlines have his name on them. The passing day is a blur of lightning and work, barely stopping to catch his breath and take his meds. He knows he needs to slow down, but slowing down means thinking about the lavender-haired teen He keeps shutting out. Slowing down would mean letting his mind wander into unforgiven territories, letting his thoughts fall back into that dark rabbit hole he calls a future. Shinsou notices the distance, although he doesn't know the reason behind it. He's too busy with his finals to confront Izuku about it, yet. Although the numerous calls and texts attest to the boy's increasing worry, he knows it's harsh, keeping the teen in the dark. He can't get himself to tell him, though. Can't get himself to admit it. He's not actively ignoring the teen, but he isn't letting him in either. Eraserhead tries to talk to him multiple times. Izuku runs before the man could get a word in. He even sees Tsukauchi lingering on crime scenes for a longer time, wanting to catch a glimpse of the evading Vigilante. His gut churns at the thought. He knows he's making them worry. It doesn't help to lessen the increasing guilt he feels for getting this close in the first place. It's ironic, really, that he's finally living up to his name. Shadow appears one moment, gets the job done, and quickly as possible, and disappears the next, leaving a trail of awe and slightly confused civilians behind. A shadow in the darkness, letting the light prevail in his wake. It's on his third day of the second week that it happens. It's close to midnight, and the streets are vacant except for a few stragglers. He's surveying the areas from his perch on the rooftop when he feels it. However, it's just his luck that at that particular moment, Eraserhead tries to talk to him. The man jumps up behind him, feet already moving as if to give chase if Shadow decides to make another run for it. "Look, Eraser, bad timing, really," he calls out, trying to keep his voice steady despite the rising pulse in his veins. The presence he scents on a nearby roof is worrying. Not one standing this close to the edge is thinking straight. "Shadow, we need to talk." No, we really don't," he replies almost instantly, feet already edging towards the direction of the presence. He feels the beginning of a protest from the older man, but he cuts him off before the hero can voice it. "A man is standing on the rooftop over there. Can you see him?" The question is met with a slight hesitation before he feels the man finally look into the direction he's pointed at. "I'm going there now. Come with if you want, but we don't have time to wait." And with that, he takes off. The underground hero follows a moment later. When they drop onto the roof, it's both silent but obvious, in fear of startling the man into any unwanted action. The man is questioned just stiffens at their apparent presence. His shoulders rise up to his neck, and the trembling of his hands seem to intensify. His head shrivels to look at them before abruptly turning back to the horizon. Next to him, Izuku can feel Aizawa holding his capture weapon tighter, ready to catch the man at any time. Izuku can't help but feel grateful for the man's intervenience. It's the first time Shadow's ever been faced with this kind of situation. He's out of his depth, and it scares him more than he cares to admit. "Think about this. You don't have to do this." Eraserhead calls out tentatively. It's the softest Izuku has ever heard him speak. The man doesn't respond. His only reaction is to continue to shake his head violently, the movements becoming borderline frantic and agitated. "There's always another way. Whatever it is that's making you do this, you can get through it." You know nothing. You wouldn't understand." The man screams, his feet edging slightly closer to the edge. His every move makes Izuku's heart stutter and jump into his chest. "Look, man." Izuku starts, trying with all his might to keep his voice calm and steady. "It's true. We don't know anything about you, just like you don't know anything about us. So why don't you make us understand? And if you feel like doing it afterwards, we won't stop you." He knows it's risky. He knows it's an empty promise. But he'll do whatever needs to be done to prevent this man from throwing his life away. It seems he did something right, because even though the man doesn't turn around to face them, he takes a step back, his head bobbing a slight nod. "Okay, Okay, good. Izuku whispers without really meaning to, as if to reassure himself slightly, letting out a breath in slight relief. Why don't you start with your name then? I'm Shadow, and my friend over there is Eraserhead. Aizawa steps closer to him at the mention of his hero name, as if to offer some silent kind of support. Re. Q. Okay, Re-kun. Will you tell me what brings you out here in this lovely establishment? He tries to make his voice as light as he can, tries to calm his racing heart. He's never been able to face these kinds of situations head on, always hiding behind his vigilante persona, hiding behind the jokes and the humor. It seems to work, for the man's shoulders loosen some of their stiffness, but it doesn't lessen the shaking of his body with each heaven breath. I can't take it anymore. Living like this, knowing what I did. The man cries out, the stiffness returning in full force, tears trailing in rivers down his cheeks. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to keep living when I ruined everything for them. What is it that you think you did? Aizawa asked slowly, stepping closer to the man once more. I know what I did. I killed her. I took everything away from him. This isn't what he had been expecting. He's almost afraid to ask the man to explain. What happened, Brew? Aizawa once again takes the lead, much to Izuku's relief. It happened 4 years ago. I was making a delivery for my company. We were late on a demand and I wanted to get it over with. So I was going faster than I was supposed to and I lost control. I didn't mean it. The man's voice breaks with every word, a deep-seated sense of pain and regret practically radiating from his form. My truck's brakes gave out, and the next thing I knew, I was crashing into a car. The story is painfully familiar, and it takes Izuku's entire being to not crumble there and then, because surely this wasn't who he thought it was. That car he crashed into, was there a woman and a kid in it? Aizawa's question is like a bucket of ice down Izuku's spine. A stark reminder of who he was standing next to. A reminder of just who saved him all those years ago. The man's full-on sobbing now, nodding his head in confirmation to Aizawa's suspicion. A 10-year-old boy. His voice cracks and shudders, dripping with remorse. Do you see now why I have to do this? I don't deserve to live. Silence follows the man's statement, the quiet making it hard for Izuku to calm his thoughts, to distract his mind from falling into old, unwanted memories, from taking him back to that fateful night, that night that had changed everything from him. It wasn't your fault. The words spill from his mouth before he could even think about it. Izuku finds that he believes them wholeheartedly. The man turns to him so fast that Izuku is afraid he'll trip. The disbelief radiates from him in spades. It wasn't your fault. He repeats slowly, making sure to spill his conviction and sincerity into every word he utters, trying to convince the man standing in front of him to forgive himself. He's right. Aizawa speaks up. You didn't make the brakes of your trucks give out, nor did you crash into them on purpose. The hero's voice turns into a darker tone as he continues. I was the hero on that scene that night. I was in charge of getting both the mother and the child out of the car. Izuku's heart thundered in his ears, making it hard to focus on anything but Aizawa's next words. The mother chose to die that night. She chose to save her son, to give up her life for him. She told me to get him out first, knowing that the car was going to catch on fire. Ri looked ready to collapse at any second. His shoulders shake with every breath he takes. Izuku hadn't been gladder for his mask and his life. So don't you dare say you killed her. You may have caused the accident, but you take away her sacrifice by saying that it was your fault. You take away her last request in the world. The words hit Izuku hard. It's almost enough for his legs to give out from under him. The overwhelming emotion surging through his heart, enough to make it give out on him there and then. He misses her so much. He misses her voice, misses her smile. Tears fall onto his cheeks, unforbidden. He wills the fading image of his mother to surge to the forefront of his mind, wills himself to remember it. Time hasn't been kind to his perception of the world, to the few memories he has of his previous life, a life full of color and light. How can I live with myself? Tell me, how can I live when I know I ruined that boy's life? He's blind. Did you know that? He's blind and he's sick because of me. You live for her. The words hang in the air, and it takes Izuku a moment to realize that he's the one who said it. You try to be the best person you can because she can't anymore. You live because you have the chance to. You're the one that gets to live, so don't you dare let it go to waste. He feels Aizawa's eyes boring into his back, but he ignores it. You live because life is too precious to throw it all away. Dying now won't help anyone. It won't make amends for what you did. But living and trying to be better, to be kinder, and to help people, that's how you keep her legacy going. That's how you make sure she didn't die for nothing. It feels like a small part of him breaks when he speaks. The part of him that always wonders, why them? Why did it have to be them on the road that night? Why did it have to be her? He stares, without seeing, at the broken man in front of him, and he thinks he finally understands. As if a dam breaks, the man crumbles to the floor, away from the edge, luckily, as if his strings had been cut. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He repeats over and over again, like a mantra. A police officer comes to escort the man home after a few minutes. The man thanks them with each step he takes away from the roof, promising to try his best to live up to what they talked about. Izuku crumbles the moment he disappears, down the stairs and off the rooftop, his body practically shutting down as the weight of everything descends upon him all at once. Aizawa slumps not long after him, and they stay there for what feels like a long time, just basking in the newfound relief and trying to calm their collective hearts. He feels Aizawa's gaze train on him the whole time, senses the questions that are on the tip of the man's tongue, the sadness and grim understanding the man is almost emitting in waves. He doesn't pay the hero any mind, though, content to just lay there, willing his senses to rain down and give him a couple of minutes of complete silence. By the time Izuku got back to the warehouse, the sunlight had filled the sky, illuminating the dark blue cloud with a cacophony of reds and orange and magenta. In contrast, the warehouse was cold and vacant. A chill runs down his back as he enters, his senses instantly alerting him of another presence in the room. Immediately taking a fighting stance, he stops short of charging at the intruder, and the man finally speaks up. Took you long enough to come back, kid. I was starting to get bored. Rue? Alright, that was an emotional chapter, and I'm not totally crying. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not like Kira 18 loves to make us cry. No, not at all. Okay, so, I want to talk about the first one, the first note I have here, which is Izuku pushing everyone away. And I sort of kind of saw that that was probably coming, considering that Izuku would do this, even though he knows what Hitoshi's stance are on this, how Hitoshi would rather, live those final moments with Izuku and then suffer losing him than losing him before he even has a chance to like it's literally taking away. It's you understand me. I don't have to repeat myself. I already said it in a video beforehand. And to know that Izuku's doing it again and Hitoshi is clearly trying to reach out and it's not looking good. Kira 18, it's chapter 19. I'm scared. It's chapter 19 and I'm scared. We're 13 chapters before the end. 13 chapters before the end. This is a Shindeku fic. Shindeku fic. Please, do not tell me that they get together at the end. just for Izuku to fucking die. Please do not tell me that Izuku, like, I swear to God, I'm gonna make a prediction. Like, towards the end, Izuku's like, okay, finally, I want to live. We're gonna do something. We're gonna find me a cure. We're gonna do something. There's opportunities. There's something. And, because of that, I'm gonna date you, Hitoshi, because there is a future for me. And then he gets killed off because you can't do that to me. You can't do that to us. Because look, Kira 18. I recognize your writing patterns, and I'm recognizing the way you write, and it's scary, because I write like this. I make my stories like this. Heart-wrenching and gut-punching, and Kira 18, the stunt you just pulled, with Izuku meeting with the person who was in the car accident and having to stop him from killing himself. The absolute irony. Not irony, but just poeticness of it, that this man, who literally is the reason why Izuku himself is going to die, why his mother died, why his mother chose him over herself, and how he is now saving the man who condemned him. I hate you, Kira 18, because that was so poetic and well written, that Izuku is saving the man who condemned him to death, who killed his mother. It was an accident, but he still killed his mother, right? Accident or not, he's still the cause of Inko's death, and indirectly caused Izuku's death. And you're a son, sick of a bitch. You're a son, you're a sick motherfucker, okay? And I would have pulled the same, and that's why I'm scared, because the shit you're pulling, the angst you're pulling out right now out of that bag of angst, it's starting to look a little bit too much like mine. It's starting to look a little bit too much of what I would do, and I'm scared of what I would do. So I'm scared of what you will do, because I know I would probably pull some shit like that I just mentioned. Make it feel like Izuku actually has hope of living. Even if the readers themselves don't, know that's not gonna happen. Just to see that Izuku is finally like, I am going to live. I'm gonna make a future. I'm gonna make an effort. We have something. Even percent a cure and then kill him off because I'm evil. Alright? Because I'm evil, okay? And I'm scared that you're gonna do the same. Okay, now let's talk about the interaction, because I feel like... Okay, so Izuku's speech. The whole, you live for her. You try to be the best person you can because she can't anymore. You live because you have the chance to. Right? From you live for her and basically what I just said, I feel like that's a little bit of him projecting, right? You live for her. You try to be the best person you can because she can't anymore. That's what Izuku's been trying to do this whole time. You live because you have the chance to, right? It's what Izuku's been doing the whole time, right? It's him projecting. This last line, you're the one who gets to live, so don't you dare let it go to waste. I feel like that's a little bit of, okay, I'm gonna die soon. You're the one out of the three of us who gets to live, so you better make the fucking best of it and you don't fucking waste it, right? And you live because life is too precious to throw it all away, right? Because Izuku understands life is precious, and again, this is him talking to the other person. And I feel like maybe internally he's also thinking this subconsciously, like, I can't just throw my life away. I have so little time and I'm throwing it away right now. Dying now won't help anyone. It won't make amends for what you did. But living and trying to be better, to be kinder, and to help people, that's how you keep her legacy going. He's saying this to this man because he knows he's not going to be able to continue her legacy. So he's passing down the torch. And that is the psychology behind this freaking whole speech. And Kira 18, if you did all this and you're like, yes, the psychology behind it, you're an amazing author and I love your work, and if it was just an accident, I love accidents. I'm gonna cry. I am crying. Just because of how beautifully written this is and how it really speaks for my emotions, because this literally is a speech that he could give to himself, that half of it I feel like inside he's giving to himself. Sometimes we say things to other people that we truly mean to say to ourselves, but we are too fucking scared, or we are too unmentally prepared to say it to ourselves, but we gladly say to others. And during these, it's when we're like, oh, well, shit. Right? And so that's why, I feel like some of this speech is meant for, obviously, the guy that's about to kill himself, right? But part of it is for him, right? and you know, like, for example, that's how you make sure she didn't die for nothing. That last part is for him and the driver, right? He feels like, hey, I'm dying. I can't just die, because if I die and her legacy dies with me, then she died for nothing. You need to continue on. You can't let her die for nothing, right? He and I feel I feel like Aizawa knows. I feel like after that speech, Aizawa knows. He knows. He fucking knows. Right? And I feel maybe the driver knows, because he starts saying, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, I feel like, right, like, he stares without seeing at the broken man in front of him, and he thinks he finally understands. So either that last line, he thinks he finally understands. That could be he thinks he finally understands, or he thinks he finally understands, as in himself, right? So either the driver finally understands that Izuku is the boy he's talking about, the boy who he's ruined, right, and basically condemned for an early death, or Izuku finally understands himself that he can't be pushing people away, that he, like, for example, what he truly realizes are parts of the speech that is actually meant to be for him, like living and trying to be better, to be kinder, to help people. No, that's not the part. Where is it? You're the one who gets to live, so don't you dare let it go to waste, right? You live because life is too precious to throw it all away. Dying, right? I feel like, and I feel like the dying now won't help anyone. Well, although it could be directed towards the driver, I feel like it also could be directed towards Izuku, because technically speaking, he isn't dead to Hitoshi, but he's practically dead to Hitoshi, because he's no longer talking to him. He's avoiding him, if we're being honest. He's avoiding him, right? And I feel like, I don't know if Kira 18 means this in the he as in himself, like as in Izuku finally understands, or the driver finally understands, or maybe it means a double meaning. Maybe it's both. They both finally understand, right? Because I do feel it kind of suspicious that the driver's saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. It goes into the whole, like, maybe he knows. And I definitely think Aizawa knows, especially considering that Aizawa was, like, kind of staring at him, right? I feel like Aizawa knows. Oh, wait, there was an author's note. What's the author note? I hope you guys like this chapter. Tell me what you think. I already told you, Kira 18. I feel like that end was like a fucking masterpiece. Check out my newest fic if you want. It's a forced military Izuku AU called Shattered Minds. Kira 18, I'm gonna have to take a break from your things. But after I take my little break, because I feel like you're gonna absolutely demolish me and all of my fans, I'll take a look at your other stuff, I promise. But I'm gonna need a break from you, okay? Love your writing, I really do. I think out of this whole thing, I think I have 3 favorite fanfic writers. That would be Kira 18, Maxine, and then Clouds. My head in the clouds not coming down. All of them AO3 writers, and thank you so much for you guys and writing fanfiction. One of you make me really happy, because you have a bunch of different Deku-centric fics that are really cool with what-if scenarios, and I really love it. Maxine, I really love the dynamic that you do with Bakugo and Izuku, and your dialogue is just absolutely superb. Kira 18, you make me sob, okay? And seeing how you're really good at writing these things, and really good at portraying these things, I know that fucking death is gonna fucking shatter me. Like, I know it's gonna shatter, because I can tell that I can see the fucking base grounds for the intimate thing that's gonna happen, for the death that's gonna happen, the little bases of, like, this is gonna be a tragic death. And I don't know if you're gonna do, because there's different ways to do a death to make it really hit. It can be abrupt, right? Where the character didn't get to complete what they wanted to complete. It could be satisfactory, where the character completed everything and is finally leaving happily. And then there's others, but, like, those two are, like, I think the umbrella ones, where you could fall the others underneath those terms. And I feel like you're going towards abrupt, and I hate you for it. and also love you at the same time, because I really think that you're gonna fucking nail it. You're gonna fucking hit the nail, and you're gonna be like, it's gonna be amazing, and it's also going to, like, I'm gonna love it because of how well written it's probably gonna be, and I'm gonna hate it because it's well written and tearing my heart apart. Like, it's one thing to read major character death and it not be, like, well-written death, because death can be hard to write, especially setting the ground base for death and stuff like that. I know, Horikoshi doesn't deal with death good when it comes to characters. Like, I think, Sir Night-Eye, it wasn't an impactful death. I can see the ground base to make it seem like a sad death, and I didn't cry, right? It didn't stick. I teared up, right? Because it was sad. The character died, right? But it wasn't to the point where I was left shattered, right? It wasn't to the point where I was left shattered. There's multiple deaths in main media that I could say that I wasn't left shattered. Like, let's say, for example, I think the only one that left me shattered, spoiler alert for manga, right? Spoiler alert for manga. I think the only one that left me shattered is Bakugo's. Ugh, his fucking end speech. When, like, obviously he's back, but his end speech of, like, what's it called? Finally realizing, like, hey, I don't think I'm gonna catch up to Izuku. And his final thoughts being Izuku. And fuck! That shit stinged. That shit stinged. I'm not saying that was a good character death. I'm saying that that was good in the sense of the basis behind it really got you to actually connect and because, like, to make a good character death, right, and a good character death in the sense of, like, you want this to hurt, especially when it's one of the main characters or like one of the, like, centric big characters, right? And you don't want it to just be a character death that people like, oh, that character died, oh well. If you really want it to impact the story and impact the people, right, what you really, really need to do to fucking write a good character death is, one, set the base works, right? You want your readers to freaking sob, make the readers feel for the character, right? Fanfiction writers have this on the spot because, luckily enough, people start out reading and I'm already attached to Izuku, right? Hero 18 doesn't need to do more to make me more attached to Izuku, right? But I feel like you also do a really good job to make us attached to this Izuku, right? You do a really good job at that. And if this was, let's say, for example, if this wasn't fanfiction and these were original characters and stuff like that, I would be attached to Izuku's character. Because we see him go through pain. We see him through hardships. We're gonna see him fall in love, right? We're seeing him. Most of the story is in his point of view. We're seeing him want to live for his mother. We are seeing him want to help people. He genuinely wants to help. He doesn't want the money. He doesn't want the fame. He just wants to help, right? We feel for him. We feel for him. We are attached to him, right? And I love that. Love that. You're doing great at that point, right? Then there's obviously the ground bases for the actual death that happens, right? Right, whether it be, the death that's satisfying or the death that is abrupt, right? So the death that's satisfying, means the character did everything they wanted to, or, closest to everything they wanted to, and when they're dying, they're content, they're happy in a way, or even if they're not content and they're like, I don't want to die, it's still, it's still content to the readers. We're like, okay, he completed his goal he's been trying to the whole book, and it's sad to see him go, but at least he completed his thing. It's a bittersweet thing, because you're like, okay, at least he completed it, but I just wish he wouldn't die, right? And then there's the abrupt. The character didn't get to complete what they wanted. Character didn't get to do all they wanted, right? It's abrupt, it's harsh, and it's crushing. This is the most heart-wrenching one. If you want to write heart-wrenching one, you do this. Right? Like, for example, dying right before, for example, with this one, right? Dying right before they can cure him. Like, let's say he dies, and literally a day later, they find the cure to fucking help him and let him live a long life. And that is fucking sad. Why? Because if only he would have lasted a little longer. Or he dies before he even gets to complete any of his goals. Any of these things he wants. Or he dies finally being like, okay, I'm going to live. I'm going to be good. I'm going to have a future and I'm set on this. I'm going to fight for my life. And then he he dies. That abrupt. That, okay, right? Most authors, right, they do the first two things, right? They make you love the character, and then they kill them off abruptly, right? But they don't think about, okay, is this abrupt, like, out of nowhere, they just die? Or is it abrupt in the sense of, like, oh my god, they didn't get to complete it, and their last waking thoughts is, I didn't get to complete it. Or, you know, they die, and then chapters later, they mention the thing that they didn't get to complete, right? Sometimes deaths, like, you get these two formulas down, right? You get the first two down, and your death still seems, weird, bad. And the missing formula, right? Because to write good character death, you need the past, the present, and then the future. The past being, obviously, make you love the character, right? You need to love the character. You need the present. You need the actual death part of it to be well written and stuff like that. And then the end part. The end part is the one that people stuck on a lot, right? Character reaction. And not just character reaction, plot reaction. How does the story continue without this character? And that's what strikes, right? Obviously with the Bakugo death, because he comes back, we don't get to see the last one. We get to see a little bit of character reaction with Izuku seeing Bakugo dead. Or, you know, pretty much dead. But we don't get to see the full extent, right? Not just like, oh, I'm so sad, I'm so depressed. Feel it. Harness it. In the fanfic I'm writing, which has Inko, and she dies in the first couple chapters, I'm gonna tell you guys this. Dead Inko is gonna be one of the tags. It's not gonna be like a big spoiler. It literally happens within the 3 chapters. Within the first 3 chapters, right? You don't get that much time to actually sit and love her, right? But in the first 3 chapters, you get to truly see how much she cares for Izuku. Izuku is everything she wants, right? She wants everything for him. She wants happiness for him. She will do anything for him. And you get to bond with that, even if it's just a little, right? Inko's death isn't supposed to be like, I'm not writing it so that you're fucking heart-wrenched. No, right? What I think in me writing Inko's death, what's the most heart-wrenching part of it is Izuku's reaction, right? Izuku's heartbreak, Izuku's thing, because Izuku just kind of shuts down. And you see it throughout the whole fanfic. Like, throughout the whole fanfic, you see small traces, and I'm gonna write small traces, alright? I'm saying you see it as if, like, it's out already and completed. No, but I'm gonna have small traces throughout the whole thing of Izuku's grief. Because grief can be funny and sticks with you forever. And, yeah, I think Kira 18 is doing a great job, and I'm scared about that. Kira 18, I'm seeing all I'm seeing all the, the past, all the, like, getting to love Izuku, and I'm getting the sense that it's gonna be an abrupt death, and I'm scared. I'm very scared. Obviously, it's gonna be an abrupt death. His goal is to be a hero, and he'll never be able to get that, so it's gonna be abrupt no matter what. And I'm scared. I'm very scared. I'm super scared. I am beyond terrified, and I'm beyond terrified. Anyways, Rue's back. I forgot his name. Or not his name. His voice. His voice. I'm gonna end this. These notes ended up being as long as the fucking video, and it's ironic. But, yeah. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to the Discord server and socials are down in the description. And my socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.